said something that was really quite surprising, and he said that, like you heard in the film, he said that as time has gone on, what surprised him most about the hi-fi that Linn is making is that the differences are actually getting bigger. So there was this idea, like some people would say, oh, hi-fi, it's law of diminishing returns, right? And what my dad was saying, it's actually the complete opposite of that. As time's gone on and we've made better and better products, the differences are bigger. Because as you get closer, as we edge closer to that live music experience, we're revealing more of the tiny details that give realism to the music. And so our customers are getting an experience that they didn't even imagine was possible. And so suddenly you get that revelatory experience where you hear something in a piece of music that you've never heard before at home, and you just want to listen to your entire record collection all over again. And you get that addictive thing where you just want to, what does this track sound like? You make that upgrade to your system and you just want to hear everything again because you know your brain's going to get that reward for that. Packing more technology and features onto the same circuit board. You saw automated CNC cutting machines with robot arms, that allow us to cut really serious metal in-house and produce products like the new Climax DSM that we launched in April 21. I was talking to John earlier, and John wrote the original Climax DS review in 2007. And what we did during COVID was we said, like, this is a really miserable, unpleasant time for everybody. Why don't we do the best thing we've ever done? Like, what's going to cheer us up? Like, what's going to motivate me and my team through COVID? It was, let's make the best product we've ever made. Let's aim to make the most desirable product in the hi-fi industry. Let's use everything we've learned about streaming for the past 14 years to put it into an all-new streaming product. And that's why we made the investment in the cutting machines, and that's why we started to design a much higher level of product than we'd done before. And when the next generation Climax DSM actually launched in April 21, it was with our own in-house DAC for the first time, organic, which is completely a first principles DAC, entirely designed in-house from the basic components. That was just as well because in November of 2020, AKM, the supplier of our DAC chips, had a fire at their factory. And that was a calamity for them, but also for a lot of companies in our industry that depended on their chips. So I'm sure you heard all about it. And we had committed to this in-house DAC prior to that. So we had this organic DAC technology coming through, and that allowed us to come to market in April 21 with the next generation Climax DSM. It got rave reviews, it's sold extremely well, it had a generous upgrade program for all the original owners, and we're really, really proud of that product. And it was a kind of beacon of hope for us through the pandemic. It was like, let's make work a haven, let's make work a place where you don't have to think about all the terrible things that are happening in the world, and it really served that purpose. So during COVID, we were investing, we were aspiring to greater things. Were you going to ask a question? No, sorry. Okay, that's fine. You looked pensive, inquisitive.
Try.
So then that technology trickled down into this Select DSM edition. So we've got Select DSM is our modular upgradable streaming proposition. So you can now get an organic DAC upgrade for Select DSM. At the same time, we were progressing our work with the Sondek LP12. We made a highest ever performance upgrades to Sondek LP12 with a new cartridge and second generation of our Radical motor control unit. We then introduced new cartridge and tone arm for our select level LP12. And so we've just been pushing on as a company for the last few years. And one of us, can't remember, we were talking about, it was Michael and I, were talking that where we are right now as an industry is the most optimistic and best place I can ever remember in the 20 years I've been involved with Linn. The engagement with what we're doing is fantastic. There's a whole generation of young people who started playing vinyl in the past few years, and there's a real interest in high quality music. So we're really seeing a great level of engagement. We're seeing great investment in the factory. We're seeing youngsters joining the company. And from all of this comes probably the biggest difference that you'll hear today, which is our latest loudspeaker. And it's by far the biggest difference we've had between any loudspeakers. I don't know if many of you are familiar with the current flagship speaker, the Climax 350. And it started life back in 2004. Originally it was called the articulate loudspeaker. It went through a number of upgrades, such as the Linn way. We upgraded the tweeter units. We had a new array, as we call it, for the upper frequencies. We introduced a higher performance stand. We upgraded the DACs on that product. So over the years, it went from being the articulate to being the Climax 350 product, and was our flagship speaker right up until right now, when we launched the 360. So in a similar way that we went from the original Climax DS and with all of its upgrades to then let's take all those learnings into a totally new generation, the 360 is a similar idea for us in the loudspeaker space. It's taking all these learnings for the past, 17, 18 years that product's been in the market, and building all those learnings into an all-new loudspeaker that my colleague Joe is going to tell you about, and you're going to have a chance to listen to. It's a landmark product for Linn. And what does this all mean? As these differences get bigger, as we continue to invest, we continue to reveal more of those tiny details for people at home when they're having these revelatory experiences with recorded music. And it means the opportunities are bigger. It means the opportunities are bigger for our customers, for our retailer community, for you guys. There's so much to be excited about in our industry. We're just through Axpona, which is such a wonderful thing to have a hi-fi show in North America again since the demise of CES, to have what would you call it? Like what is the word I'm looking for? Means good. Big draw, good.
Humongous?
No.
Big draw.
Like it's the go-to to have a show that has a real focus and a real pull that's nationwide and potentially North America wide and potentially beyond. So to see Axpona on this growth path and becoming this destination show is fantastic news for all of us, for all the companies in our industry. And the attendance was fantastic. It's growing, and we're going to be there every year now. So that's a really, really positive development. Anything else you wanted me to cover?
No, that's perfect. That's teed everything up perfectly, so everyone knows where we are at as a company. And I just wanted to say thank you so much for joining us, and we're really, really pleased and humbled by the amount of effort that our friends at Innovative have put on and have made to help us to facilitate this event today. We really hope that you enjoy what you hear.
Just a brief interruption, esteemed viewers. As you may know, I'm Tom Martin, Chief Content Officer of The Absolute Sound. We have a new product. It's on the Substack platform, and we're going to do some interesting things with Substack. First of which is reader questions and answers. Each Monday, readers will submit questions. We'll pick the most interesting ones and we'll answer the questions on Friday. We'll also have early access to articles and special blogs that don't appear anywhere else. We hope you'll join us. It's only a cost of a cup of coffee per month. Just check on the screen or in the show notes below. Thanks, and now back to the show.
Here we are. This is our new flagship system, featuring our Climax DSM system hub and, of course, the 360 loudspeakers. This particular finish is called Clyde Built. I will tell you more about the finishes available afterwards, but those of you who are aware of Linn will know that Clyde Built is it's an epithet, it's a motto of ours to nod to the rich shipbuilding heritage of Glasgow's mother river, the River Clyde, but a little bit more on that later on. What are your initial thoughts on the speaker's aesthetic?
Nice color.
Nice color. It's really nice in the flesh, this beautiful satin finish. But as I said, more on that later. So this particular variant of the speakers that you're going to be listening to is our exact integrated 360. Are all of you familiar, or at least have heard of our proprietary exact technology? So it's our current flagship technology of integrated active loudspeakers. The exact is effectively a bit of an umbrella term which covers various different things, notably a digital crossover that's inbuilt into the speakers as well. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the speaker itself, and then we're going to listen to some music, and then listen to some more music, and then listen to some more music, and then answer some questions, and we're just going to see how things go, okay? 360 is audibly invisible. It produces a performance with unprecedented clarity and realism that's entirely absent of sonic coloration, and I mean entirely. It incorporates brand new innovative drive unit technologies and amplifier technologies that are unique to us, and 360 as a result turns out our lowest ever levels of distortion. The beautiful honed curves of the cabinet are partnered with meticulously matched drive units to deliver the cleanest possible dispersion characteristics. All that is then experienced with 360 is soundstage, with vocals suspended, just hanging there in front of you in space, and a true-to-life scale and depth, leaving you utterly devoid of the sense that you are listening to a pair of stereo loudspeakers. Now, this might sound like just bluster, but when you experience it, and I'll encourage you, when we're talking about dispersion characteristics and things like that, when we're listening, I'll encourage you to get up and walk around the room, prove it to yourself. I won't utter the expletive that the British journalist Alan Sercombe uttered when he heard it for the first time. But you can imagine, it was just repeated over and over again with wide eyes and jaw on the floor. So I hope that you experienced the same thing. So as well as being audibly invisible, 360 is also visibly remarkable. Its curvaceous cabinet, its intricately machined trim, which of course you can come up and have a closer look at later on, and a range of dynamic finishes combined to prevent an overall aesthetic that is at once familiar, yet it has ultra-modern flair and contemporary class.
I hate to jump in, but you mean present, not prevent.
Did I say present?
You said prevent.
Prevent?
Yeah. You mean present.
It's just one little letter. You'll get that in the edit, right?
What's it worth to you?
Oh, okay, we'll negotiate. So, critical to this audible invisibility that our designers were aiming for were two specific categories of innovation, I suppose. We needed to get rid of any audible distortion, any sonic coloration or signature of the speakers, removing all distortion that we could, just wholesale, strip it out. But then also to create a cabinet that would then produce near perfect, unbeatable dispersion characteristics in the room, so that all you get is the music as the artist intended it, to use the hackneyed phrase. So let's just break it down into the individual, seeing as we were meant to have a couple of people who weren't traditional hi-fi press with us today as well, but I know that you guys are in the know and you probably want to know some of the details. Again, we can cover that in the Q&A afterwards, but I'm going to go through the drive units that are on display just to tell you about some of the things that make 360 so unique and so good at producing these amazing dispersion characteristics and amazingly low distortion floor. So the tweeter, you see right here behind this beautiful dark chrome-plated Linn logo icon, it's the audio world's first ever 19mm beryllium tweeter. Now, it's tooled by us, but this drive unit now has all of its inherent distortion and resonance and flapping and breakup pushed far above the range of human hearing. And I'll let you in on a secret. I was actually talking to Jim about this before. It's so far beyond the range of human hearing that it's actually beyond the measurable range of Phil, our acoustic engineer's equipment. It didn't even pick up any of the breakup. It's pushed so far out of band. So as a result, the tweeter produces a startlingly clean and open sound, providing a truly an open window into the very upper frequencies. Now, the difficulty, I suppose, would be then to pair a mid-range unit with this, this tweeter that we loved the sonic characteristics of it so much. So what we did was we auditioned various different materials, and then as material science has got better and better and better, Phil was able to test a thin-ply woven carbon fiber, a material that was originally developed actually for the Mars rover, for NASA. It's incredibly light, but so stiff and rigid and hard. And it matches perfectly with the tweeter in that it also pushes any discernible, any measurable flapping or breakup or distortion almost 3 octaves above the range of human hearing. Both the upper and lower bass drive units employ an aluminium-magnesium alloy, also selected for its more than ample stiffness, and thus ensuring that the whole speaker produces piston-like behavior, true piston-like behavior without deviation. The pair of lower bass driver units have greater range and more than double the excursion than our previous maximum present in our Climax 350, the former flagship speaker. The bass drive units are steadfast, they're adept, they can be pushed loud, they can be pushed hard, whilst remaining firmly under control. So in summary, for the drive units, in order to reduce all of this audible distortion, any audible distortion to contribute to this audibly invisible loudspeaker, it produces, well, the whole speaker produces exceptionally pure sound with just an astonishing clarity and transparency and openness due to the hardness and the great inherent strength of all of these various different high-tech, futuristic materials that were selected for its drive units. The diaphragms, as a result, they just do not color the sound that they generate in any discernible, measurable, or audible way, and you only hear the music. Phil was able to achieve his goal. So 360, it is bigger and better at bass than anything we have ever created before. The bass system, it's helpful to think of the speaker almost as if it's 2 different speakers in one. We've got the bass system down here, and then we've got the upper frequencies handled by this, which we term the 360 array. The bass system delivers lower frequency sound with more impact, more punch, and also efficiency, and it also dramatically less distortion, thanks to a new technology which we have termed Power DAC, which effectively combines both DAC and amplifier into one stage. I'll probably end up reaching the limit of my technical knowledge on this if you ask me too deep a question, but realistically what it does is it extends the digital path much further into the speaker than we would have been able to do before, reducing loss and increasing, well, just reducing loss, I suppose. The Power DAC technology, it's highly efficient, ultra low noise, and provides the perfect platform for driving the lower bass system in 360. Now, when it's coupled with the prodigious excursion capabilities of the matched lower bass drive units, 360, as you will hear shortly, I think with a yellow track, it produces seismic, realistic, and distortion-free bass that will move you in your seats. It's truly rumbling, it's amazing. So moving up to the 360 array, we also have some unique Linn technology in here to do with the amplification in the exact integrated version that powers the 3 top drive units in the 360 array. We call this technology adaptive bias control. And just to summarize it briefly, it's critical to the superlative performance of the tweeter, the mid-range, and the upper bass. Adaptive bias control eliminates distortion from the amplifiers using real-time dynamic management and correction, ensuring that they behave at their absolute optimum in every scenario. So it reduces the distortion that you get at the crossover point of the transistor and the output stage of the amplifiers. Because it's done digitally, it means that there's absolutely zero distortion whatsoever at the crossover point. And because it is managed by algorithms created by us in amplification that is tailored to each specific drive unit, it means that no matter what music you play, how loud, how variable, how quiet, the bias setting of each individual amplifier and each individual speaker is kept at its absolute optimum. Did that make sense?
Yeah, and I think I would just add to that, that builds on what Exact does. So Exact eliminates, the Exact technology itself eliminates all magnitude and phase distortion. And so effectively, by this approach of using digital signal processing in real time, we can do things like measure the variability or tolerance that you might get in components in a crossover and eliminate that variability. We can measure the drive units at the point of manufacture. Now, if drive unit's a physical object and no two are the same, there's the spec sheet and then there's the actual physical drive unit. And by measuring the drive units and what they're actually like, we can code that into the crossover and eliminate the variability between drive units. So if we've lost the drive unit variability, we've lost the crossover variability, and so what Joe's just described just extends that further into the amplifier and eliminates transistor variability in amplifiers. So our products are this combination of the analog and the digital, and it's using digital technology for what it's great at, and using digital algorithms for what they're great at, which is all about just eliminating these sources of distortion. So that's kind of key to the Linn ethos, is that we don't have a golden ears saying, oh, I think the speaker should sound like this. What we have is a group of engineers finding the next small incremental improvements that eliminate sources of noise and distortion from the signal path.
Thank you for the added context, Gilad. So we've spoken quite comprehensively and at length, I'm sorry, about the relentless elimination of distortion in this new speaker design. The other aspect which contributes to it becoming an audibly invisible loudspeaker, which I mentioned, was its dispersion characteristics. And this is, the characteristics it displays are a mixture of the drive units, their positioning, but also this beautiful cabinet that you see in front of you. So the curvaceous front baffle of the loudspeaker, it actually tapers from bottom to top with shaped radii which are specifically matched to the drive units which it surrounds at that particular point. The speaker's constituent drive units are placed perfectly flush with the front baffle, so that they emanate sound out and away from the speaker without any obstruction whatsoever. These elements result in a speaker which produces precisely the same tonality in every single direction, which reinforces the soundstage of the original recording, as you all know. And I'm really looking forward to when we play some expansive orchestral music, getting you to walk around and experience this soundstage that just remains unbroken no matter where you are in the room. So we've covered audibly invisible. How about the visibly remarkable element? I mentioned earlier that these were a specific finish called Clyde Built. Clyde Built is part of a specific, specifically curated for 360 collection of all new finishes. We've never had anything in these kind of finishes before. We call this collection the Glasgow Collection. Comprising the Glasgow Collection, which is meant to celebrate our home, our heritage, and our pride of our country, we have Clyde Built, which, as I alluded to slightly earlier, it nods to Glasgow's rich engineering heritage, the shipbuilding, which we take great pride in continuing the great engineering tradition of Glasgow. And some of you will know that Clyde Built, up until now, has only been printed very subtly on some of our PCB circuit boards as a little Easter egg and in a nod, a salute to this heritage. But now we actually have something that's named explicitly Clyde Built for the very first time. It takes its inspiration from the Finnieston crane, which I don't know if any of you have been to Glasgow, but it proudly still stands like an iconic monolith above the River Clyde in the centre of Glasgow. Also, as part of the Glasgow Collection, we have one of my personal favourites, single malt, of course. We couldn't get away with, whiskey being synonymous with our heritage. It's a beautifully dynamic finish, which you saw in the video, albeit stop-start with the buffering. It's so dynamic, it changes from rich caramel colours to bright oranges as you get that great big variance in actual Scotch whiskey. It's made up of 10 individual layers of carefully curated lacquers. My colleague Adrian, it was a labour of love with this entire collection. He's done a beautiful job. The one remaining finish available from the Glasgow Collection is Linn Heritage, which is a very, very complex, deep, dark blue. Blue has always been a color that has been related to us on a brand level, and it's a stunning, dark, metallic, almost midnight blue, which again behaves differently under different lighting conditions. At some points it looks almost black, at some points it's inky and metallic, and it's just gorgeous. We've never made finishes like this. Also available to customers are basically any color of the rainbow, any RAL color that they would like, and that's at no extra charge on top of the price of the speaker. We're also making it available, if we can. We're saying that if you'd like your Tornado Red 360s to come in a satin finish, absolutely. If you want it to be metallic, absolutely. Basically, if you want to match your favorite Lamborghini, you totally can. As well as this beautifully curated Glasgow collection, we have the Classic collection, which combines the sort of timeless elegance of a piano black, just like your Steinways, or the sort of minimalist chic of a gloss white, which we call Alpine White, named after the finish of one of B.B. King's favorite Lucille guitars. So that's the cabinet finish. Sumptuous form conscientiously follows function in a visibly remarkable aesthetic that's light years ahead of traditional cabinet design. The shapely and extremely robust cabinet is built from scrupulously folded and formed 3D laminates, pushing and exceeding the limitations of ply engineering to construct a fluid front baffle which reaches right around the side of each speaker. I encourage you, once we've listened to it a little bit, to go around and properly appreciate the tapering and the way that the radii change, and it's just gorgeous. Machined into the 360 array trim are a series of concentric arcs. On this particular one, it's an anodized black finish. You also have available a natural silver on which these concentric arcs are also visible. More visible, sorry. And the arcs are a nod to our Climax DSM, which also feature these concentric arcs, both redolent on purpose of the grooves of a vinyl record. Of course, the Sondek LP12, the product on which we were founded, we're trying to nod to that heritage and history and have a consistency through our products. So the concentric arcs are a beautiful touch. The grooves are set adjacent to the tweeter protector, which I also pointed out before, which draws the eye in with its chrome-plated Linn icon. The engineered trim around all of the drive units, including the 360 array, is machined in-house, of course, from 5754 grade aluminium, and it also incorporates ingenious and subtle waveguides to help facilitate optimum performance from the drive units which they surround. Let's listen to them. Thank you for your patience. You should know everything that I wanted to tell you about them. All of this information and a little bit more I will make available to you in a press pack, which you will receive to your email address, which I'll get from Susan tomorrow morning. And of course, I'm available to answer any questions or point you towards some of our amazing engineering team or design team to get some of your more specific questions answered. But I'm thinking, what are you in the mood for the first track to blow these guys away?
You mentioned yellow.
Yeah, let's do
Oh,
that.
yeah.
Let's do that.
Should we do one quick
Diana,
question
call,
whilst
please.
we're a man down?
I beg your pardon?
One burning question whilst we're a man down.
Oh, of course. I totally just glossed over the fact that Jim took his leave for a moment. Do you have any questions at the moment?
What is the cabinet made out of? What is the cabinet made out of?
It's ply.
It's what?
It's plywood.
Oh.
Made up of formed and layered and compressed ply sheeting. It's just like a 3D laminate, I believe. Now, I don't know great details about the actual manufacturing process, but it's something that our cabinet manufacturer, because of course we don't do cabinet manufacture, we need a facility at least the same size as the Linn factory again to be able to do that. It's not what we're it's part of our expertise. So our cabinet manufacturer, they told us that our idea for the design was actually impossible. So cue months of Adrian just going, yeah, no, I really think we can do this. And it was a great collaborative effort, and the result of it is something that's high-tech and otherwise only seen in really, really high-end furniture. It really pushes the limits of this ply construction. It's actually made up of two C-shaped ply constructions, halves, yeah, which then have all of the bracing and everything in between, and then they meet in the middle and are bonded, put on top. I do have an animation of how that actually goes together, which I'll share with you as part of the press pack as well. It's really obvious that it's a loudspeaker, but it's pushing it a little bit, both for functionality, for performance, and also for creating something with sexy European curves, you know? However, it is available in another variant to fit a different customer in a different application. With our previous flagship speaker, the Climax 350, we called the passive version just the passive version, but it was somewhat of a misnomer because it did actually have active servo-controlled bass. So we've taken the opportunity with this all-new loudspeaker to give it a proper name, so it's a bit more descriptive and more accurate to what it is. So this other variant, which just arrived after being held hostage in customs for a week, we've called it the 360 passive with active bass, abbreviated to PWAB, which sounds silly, but it rolls off the PWAB. And you have no idea how many meetings we had trying to say, should we call it semi-passive, semi-active? Should we call it passive with active bass? But that's a mouthful. And then Gilad came up, he said, let's just call it PWAB.
Everyone will just end up saying PWAB.
And it stuck.
It's funny.
It is PWAB, yeah. It's funny. It's funny. So yeah, there are two variants available, and of course,
I'd say that on that point, the reason we have the passive with active bass is so that it's works friendly with separate systems. So you could use non-Linn amplifiers if for some crazy reason you wanted to, or if you already had a separate system and you were just upgrading your speakers, for example, it would play nicely in that situation. I also just want to add that, so with the passive with active bass, you could then go externally active with one of our exact boxes and go down that route. And then finally, just to mention that in this particular exact integrated, you'll see that the only cables that are going to the speakers are Cat5 cables. And actually, each speaker receives full bandwidth digital audio direct to the speaker. And then in software, we configure the speaker and say, you're the right speaker, you're the left speaker. And then in the crossover, it then figures out how to process the signal. And effectively, you can think of each drive unit having its own then dedicated DAC and signal path to each of the drive units that's completely tailored optimally just for what that drive unit needs for what it does. And that's hugely efficient and distortion eliminating.
Absolutely. And its specific characteristics due to manufacturing tolerances of the physical part as well. It downloads a specific software filter to correct any, to make the performance of every single 360 identical, I suppose.
So I think Jim's had his chance.
Yes. Yeah, let's just kick off with some yellow.
Very important question. No, I'm surprised no one else has brought this up. Do they have grills?
No.
That's a very good question. No, they don't.
No.
No. Great.
Now, do you mind if I ask, what's the motivation for your question?
That's what people ask me.
Okay. So as I described, all of the materials used for the drive units are exceptionally hard. So risk of damage to the drive units is limited, really. And in order to achieve the amazing dispersion characteristics, we needed to place the drive units as flush as possible with the front of that baffle. So whether it be for aesthetic reasons or concerns about safety, the decision was taken very conscientiously to not include grills for these. But it's a very solid question, thank you. Shall we?
Yes.
Which yellow track are you going to play?
I'm a fan of Electrified myself because it's all about New York City.
Cool, let's do it. When in Rome.